So you may have noticed over the past few weeks, a load of new exploits and bugs have been surfacing and brought into the light for the general game population. This has led to an awful lot more people abusing such bugs, like in the latest trials, field boss fights, PvP, and more. So let's go through everything in this video. Probably the most economy breaking one was the fact that people were essentially able to infinite craft Cordy weapons. You would buy up a bunch of these branches, and for whatever reason, it didn't consume your Cordy branches and you were able to infinite craft. There's a lot of speculation and a lot of allegedlys around this. But yes, people have been fairly confidently claiming that people were able to, say, infinite craft these. You can look at the sale list and that might look surprising when you compare it versus other Archboss weapons. Tevent's, the most is 7, 15 for Queen Belandir, and 8 for Delasnoa. But you have to be aware we just had Peace Cordy. What this introduced was exactly at 7 PM EU time when we had the boss fight was a lot of new weapons into the market. This, however, was a day before that we had an emergency patch which allegedly fixed the Cordy branches and that infinite crafting. Like this crazy guy reportedly already crafting 7 of them and then onto an 8th. And so you may have heard people claiming that these were introduced into the market and never resolved, never taken out. And that might be what you could conclude here, because then all of a sudden there's a whopping 34 right there listed. The Cordy wands too. But keep in mind again, this is just after we had the Peace Cordy. And if you look at Delasnoa, we got the exact same thing. Over 30 weapons added in just after we got Peace Delasnoa. It was introduced for the very first time as a peace boss, whereas Cordy was introduced as a PvP boss the first time. So it's only this week we've had it as the first time as peace. And yes, the new change to the portals with regards to those boss fights basically allows for every 96 players to have a weapon drop. And so in actual fact, them adding all of a sudden 30 to the market is not a surprising thing. I do not believe this has anything at all to do with people taking advantage of infinitely crafting these. The infinite craft was resolved the day before, and this is when we should have seen an auction house spike if people were managing to be able to craft and sell a load of these. But I think the devs got on board pretty quick and they never actually got added to the market. Again, this trend of over 30 weapons added is exactly what we saw with Delasnoa. The daggers, the staff, the sword and shield, and the spear. You can check the markets here on Questlog. You can even look at the different regions, how they have changed as well. And I just don't really see any trends in those graphs that really results in that infinite craft bug to really have affected the market. But let's jump to the next topic at hand. There was apparently a bug where you could infinitely claim the chest rewards at the end of a dungeon. Again, this is allegedly. It's more likely a bug where you could just stand AFK, the chest would reset and you spend more of your tokens, allowing you to just complete the dungeon once, stay there forever, and ultimately always claim those rewards rather than having to actually play the game and complete it. That's not such a game-breaking bug because you still have to spend the tokens to obtain the chest. However, it would be very concerning if that was indeed true, that you could infinitely claim the chests by, say, having an infinite amount of tokens. But honestly, I don't really see that being the case, or again, we would have seen auction house prices absolutely crash in terms of traits for items. And again, there's still a limit on that because you can only get so many trait extract stones. Again, it's very much allegedly. And then all the trials, yeah, they all got completely abused. Even the latest Chapel of Madness can be abused again after they claim to have fixed it. I've yet to find a Twisted Laboratory bug. That at least seems to be pretty clean. But you're still able to get to the chandelier in the Halls of Tragedy, and you're able to abuse this position to beat up Grey Eye in your Chapel of Madness. So you will see tier 15 completions, even though it technically shouldn't be possible. And if a group does beat it legit, you'll definitely see gameplay of that. They supposedly fixed Rancorwood. We have yet to get the trial again to actually check it out, but you were able to abuse distance from afar and kill him and get an easy tier 15 completion without having to play a single mechanic. This is even possible in Doomrock Grove, supposedly. Much harder though, you need to have like 30 meters of range, and you can only use multi-target abilities like Meteor to just put a bit of splash damage on the boss. So honestly, it would take far longer than it's worth to beat tier 15. So you won't see many people at that level, but we did beat tier 13 legit. So I think 15 could be possible. But then the Trial Timer exploit. I will acknowledge my group has abused this. It just completely removes that annoying time pressure and allows you to make more mistakes and ultimately complete it without having to reset the whole dungeon before doing so every time. And basically how it's done is you're gonna need like a lion morph. You're gonna then use that to jump on top of the cube and then jump off that and roll dodge over on top of this hitbox and get out of the area. Then you will unlock a waypoint, everybody leaves, come back, and then that's it. I can't show you because I've actually never done the bug myself. But yes, it should technically get fixed, and arguably I would just remove this timer altogether. I'm not a fan of wasting my time having to kill mobs. The alternative is just remove all the mobs and just have literally the boss fight at the end. That's what I would consider a trial rather than the entire dungeon. But moving on, there's a Guardian exploit, and this one is pretty impactful. You can straight up abuse the Feral Wolfer Guardian. This one is going to give you 6% more base damage, like all the time. You will activate the morph, you will use like a stun ability here, and then you will go into your morph, like your standard dash morph. And then you need to wait 30 seconds. You can see we have the Song of the Wild buff, we have 3 stacks, this gives us 6% base damage, and after we've waited 30 seconds, the buff should technically be gone, but because we're in morph form, it doesn't disappear. Like, I'm now out of morph, I'm still glowing like this, I can even switch my Guardian back to what I would normally use, I can use that power when it's available, and yeah, you all the time then have this extra base damage boost. It's honestly pretty broken. However, there are a lot of instances where this will fall off when you're switching maps. So it doesn't exactly have a full practical effect, but still absolutely needs fixing. The next one is your Ancestral Armor Lunarstone. This one can be abused to gain a 15% extra base damage boost, even more impactful. I personally don't have this one yet, but it's a passive effect that simply gives you that 15% base damage when your HP is under 40%. So you can slot this in, you can go self-harm yourself by taking fall damage and get below 40% health. Then you like disable your Amatoy heal here, get rid of as much health regen as possible, and you can go into like your boss fights with that extra damage boost. You can do your Gate of Infinity with that damage boost, get high ranks. And I think it's kind of a silly system. I just don't think you should gain that benefit so easily by just losing your health before the fight even starts. It should be something happens during the fight. Like you should purposefully take damage from mechanics to intentionally lose that health, or have a good enough damage you take the threat and then get those auto attacks around the boss so you're below 40% health. But as it stands, it's just so easy to make use of, so easy to abuse by, jumping off, taking damage, then going into your boss fight and having that massive damage boost. You run the risk of, yes, getting one shot from any other boss mechanics, but honestly, those field bosses are just so easy to kill, especially for range damage dealers, that I just think that Lunarstone should get changed, or just that your HP gets reset to full as soon as like a boss fight starts. However, be aware, the Daigon boss fight has its own thing like this. You will deal double damage if you're below 50% health. You can see it's a bloodlust zone. And if you're above 50% health, you will deal 50% less damage. So this further encourages, and I've totally been doing it all the time, harming yourself, damaging yourself so that you are below 50% health before you go into the Daigon fight. And then you can take advantage of that further by having that Lunarstone to get even more base damage. And then there's the whole PvP scripting. Now, honestly, I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out, but as of late, I don't nearly play as much PvP. I have asked around of people I know who clearly don't script, my friends, and they have not found it that big of an issue in PvP. You have to keep in mind, a good player will know when to block your attacks, and it's ultimately, if you're a good player in return, you'll predict when they're going to block your attacks and find ways to counter that by using certain abilities, either to bait those blocks to make them run out of stamina before you ultimately kill them. We can only dodge like 3 times usually before we're out of stamina. But yes, there is evidence that it's a thing. People can hard code it so that when you're going to go use an ability on them, like if your computer gets the signal that death from above is going to hit you and fear you, then you automatically have it coded so that it would block that attack. That's essentially how the scripting works, and in large scale, you're just going to get hit by too many stuff that it's not really going to be that useful. But you can, of course, if there's a meta, people are stacking a certain way, you can script it, you can code it so that it targets and counters a certain thing. If you don't want to get sleep bombed, you can code it so that it's automatically going to block that, and if you have enough stamina, it will do so. Then there's the Obsidian Afk Farming. So you may see when you go to your Black Anvil Forge, there are people like literally everywhere just standing around hitting mobs and killing them over time. Basically, this is to craft the obsidian weapons, the Black Anvil weapons. These giving you a 50% solent and mastery bonus. You need 100 obsidian pieces to do so, to create them. Now, once you do create them, you can't sell them, you can't trade extract them, so it's literally for your own personal gains. So I honestly don't have the big deal about people just standing AFK here and basically botting, basically macro farming the mobs there. The devs already went and deliberately removed all the tier 2 gear that these enemies can drop because of this AFK farming. So you won't be rewarded with any good gear as a result of doing that. Of course, if I personally want to go and put all the effort in to get the obsidian myself, I might have an issue with those people because they're taking the kills very easily and they're putting no effort in, whereas I would feel like I'd have to put a lot of effort in. My take on it is, don't really bother unless you're gonna go macro script yourself, or you're at the very least joining a group of 6 people and you take turns killing the mobs. You need to kill on average 100,000 dwarves, 100,000 to get enough obsidian for these weapons. So on average, every 1,000 dwarves you kill, you get 1 piece. Yes, that's an absolute ton. It takes a long time to do that. And honestly, I'm not going to put that time investment in right now. And if I'm going to go AFK farm that, I'm sure going to get a whole lot of hate from you guys. I'm not going to bother with it. The devs have confirmed they're going to eventually introduce more ways you can get obsidian and make those weapons a bit more accessible. So I'll simply wait for that. Then there's the soloing guild bosses. You may have seen people putting clips of it, and ultimately, similarly to the trials, you can bug these bosses so that you can solo kill them. If you have a rank 20 guild, you get these bosses unlocked, and you can ultimately, have 20 meters range, go in a certain weird spot, and kill the bosses solo. It's going to take a while, but it's possible, and you can get your chance at this loot. They've even introduced guaranteed tier 2 loot drops now, so you will always get a tier 2 drop when you kill these bosses. You can ultimately only do it 7 times a week, and people in guilds are doing it anyway. It's just a pretty big advantage if you can do it by yourself. So that should get fixed. You shouldn't be able to abuse the bosses like the trials by going out of bounds some way or another and then cheesing them. but it's doable right now. And then there's this quite amusing infinite shield strike bug, which I just set up here to show you guys. I don't really think it's game breaking, especially since they fixed Nirma. You can no longer like AoE stun people, so it's kind of irrelevant for PvP. And for PvE, it's whatever. Like, if a tank can hold threat better, that's honestly a great thing for everybody. It's not like you're dealing more damage and are going to have an easier time completing content. Basically, you're going to need Shield Strike with the AoE spec here, with Counter Barrier and the cooldown spec here. You need your Jared's Patience Mastery and that passive here as well. I think you need Spectrum of Agony and also Roar Amplifier, not 100% sure, but you will activate your Counter Barrier just like this, and whenever you use that Shield Strike and hit a lot of guys, you basically get all the cooldown for every single hit. So you can basically spam this ability like you see I'm doing here, because each of these hits is basically considered like a counter attack. Again, not something that's gonna be very game changing. It's whatever. It's just gonna help, tanks. If you have that set up, by all means use it. Hold threat a bit better against groups of enemies, and honestly that's a great thing for your party. But sure, it's a bug and technically abusing. You of course can't get banned for that, unlike some other things on this list. And then there are some particularly annoying bugs, like that flying bug. If you're gliding and you land on the ground, you can sometimes end up get super stuck and you can't do anything. You can't even escape by pressing the B power. You can apparently go to your Amatoy house, and if you just click escape here and trigger this so that it begins with the bar, you can cancel it and then you're fine. You should be able to just move again. I believe the bug happens when you're gliding and you're not like using stamina, and then you kind of like bug out into the ground. It's not happening here for me, and I've had it happen before, but again, just click on escape, click cancel, and you should be able to walk around. Hopefully they fix that though. The battle pass food, for some reason they bugged it so that you now only get one of these abundance fruits and mastery reports when you buy them for the same price as before. I don't know if they've done this intentionally. If they have, that's very sneaky and pretty horrible, because they've actually decreased the amount of star crystals you get from tasks and the amount you can gain overall. Like, I can barely get all of the skill conversion books even after a 4-week battle pass where I do every single task. Like, I can't get enough star crystals to buy just 10 of these. I'm assuming they're pushing for the incentive for you to pay Lucent to buy star crystals to complete, giving you less rewards. Like, I used to be able to buy all the skill conversion books and a whole load of other things. They've gotten a lot more stingy with that, and this just makes it worse now that you have to spend twice as much just to get these abundance fruits and mastery reports, which only last 30 minutes. They used to last an hour with this cost. Hopefully that gets fixed. There's a bug with inspecting runes on other players. If you go click on them, look at their player card, you have a look at their weapons, if they let you view them, which most people apparently don't, maybe in these rankings. Okay, this guy has no runes shown, but you might see something like this. It's ultimately just a visual bug with some Korean text, and it's whatever. There's a bug with like your material transmutation still, which can be pretty awful if you fall for it. Basically, if you're in equipment, you click like common, it's going to add all the common stuff, and it's even going to add your obsidian for your black anvil weapon. So be careful of that. And then with rare, it adds all the ores, even though you might not notice. You might think, oh, it's still just going to add all my gear. You scroll down and oof, it's going to eat all these ores. So ultimately, just don't use that feature. Don't click all rare here straight away. You need to click like a filter here, weapons, armor, accessories, and just use one of those. Then when you click, it's only going to take those. Because with the pouches, that's where the ores and stuff are. So if you click rare, it adds them. And if you're in all, it's going to add them as well. It's honestly a sneaky default change, and I think they should revert it back. It should not, when I click all here, select everything including these like materials. People have gotten very screwed over by it. There's like your Purification Stone visual bug, something with your artifact power as well. You can see it might pop up for you and just like always stay there. It's very annoying visual bug. The Swamp of Silence dynamic event, I done it twice. Sure, I only got minimum participation of like 100, but I was at least expecting to get some ores and some crystals, even if it would be the bare minimum, but I literally got nothing. So that may very well be a bug, and I'm not going to be going there again. Most other ones, if I get 100 points, I'll get the minimum rewards. There's an issue with you can't change target while using like a charging skill for wand and staff. This is like on your fireball. I believe it's also on like your snipe with your bow. Basically, you can't switch target and hit that different target after you've initially started casting it. You can see that here again, like I switch my target, it's not going to hit a different target. One of the community managers has handed this report onto the devs, but he claims, yeah, at least himself, he sees it as intended. I mean, the devs might think that too. You're supposed to kind of pick your target and then charge up, and if you want to change target, well, you shouldn't have picked that target in the first place. It's just kind of frustrating, especially when you're killing groups of enemies and then their target's gonna be dead and you want to quickly switch it to a different one. In PvE, I think it's fine. PvP, maybe it should work like this. And then like multi-casting abilities, this is like with Spear, people are reporting your Explosive Fury basically is bugging out. So like they aren't able to cast all 5 casts. I have like 100 MS here, sometimes 66, sometimes 33. I don't know why it fluctuates between that, but I have no issues. I haven't had any problems with them dropping off. But I have played on the Korean server with like from 400 to 600 MS, and I basically couldn't cast more than 1 or 2 Explosive Furies because the thing would just go on cooldown before it registers that you actually cast the next one. I think a fix to this would be to extend the duration that you have before you can continue like with more casts. And then like there's a bunch of mastery bugs. To name one of them, people are getting caught out with the sword and shields. This mastery, it still says it gives all endurance, but they recently nerfed it to only give ranged and melee. It doesn't give magic. That's intended, so it's pretty much just a tool to bearer. It was in the patch notes for the Korean server at one point. Not for us for some reason, but they still made that change here. And yeah, that's pretty much everything for my list. I looked through a whole bunch of things across the Discord server, across YouTube, across Reddit, looking at what people had listed. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of exploits, a ton of bugs. But honestly, from my experience playing other games, this is the norm, guys. Devs are never perfect. Games are never perfect. You get the illusion that they are, especially when you start the game new, because people just haven't discovered these things. You bet all of these trials exploits were there in the Korean game. It's just nobody experimented enough to actually find them out. As soon as we get like 1 million players across all the servers or across all the different times that they play, experimenting with this game, somebody runs into an issue, somebody does a bit more testing and investigating on that issue, realize it's a bug, finds out you can exploit it, and then this is what happens. And now, what has happened even more is that there has been no repercussions for people using said exploits. And what this happens then is people feel more confident, even like myself with this video, to showcase, to talk about, and basically expose these bugs and exploits to everybody, making the game feel like it's riddled with them, where it may not have had before, just because you now know about them. The majority of these things have been in the game forever. It's just we didn't take the time to discover them, or you just weren't made aware of them. But yes, that does not excuse that the devs should not acknowledge them. They should give some insights as to what's going on. How are they going to address this? What's their standpoint with regards to reprimanding players? Are we going to see a trial reset? Honestly, they could just very simply end the entire trial season right now, or yes, just wait till next week. That way we've done a full rotation of all of these trials. We've experienced them all. They should then just go back, fix everything, make it 100% sure it can't be abused. If somebody's targeting the boss from an unknown position where the boss can't pass towards them, just send them a nuke and kill the guy. Problem solved. Of course, it's never going to be that simple. But yes, right now, the season only ends in 2099, so a long time away, and they can simply just change this to end tomorrow, end it next week, and just start fresh with a new one. Simple as that. But yes, bunch of people have runes. There are going to be people complaining about this guy's got higher level runes than me because he went and abused. And that's true. That's totally a valid point. And ultimately, I don't know what they can do with that. Yes, go back, punish everybody, reset all their runes to level 60, make everybody restart. But I think the game devs just won't do that. And ultimately, max level is 80. People are going to catch up in no time at all before we get legendary runes. I think we have plenty of time to catch up. And the difference between a level 70 and 80 rune is honestly not that much of a game changer that you should really worry about. Oh, and yeah, these servers just got taken down for maintenance to fix some like crashing issues. This server too. And one thing that they could totally do to copy what the Korean devs do is whenever they come out with a new update, they acknowledge all of the known issues. Like this here, the Korean devs will have a whole list, and over time when they fix them, they'll update it and remove it. Like there was a whole load of things here, but they've since fixed those. And that just gives a ton more clarity of what the devs actually know, and when you get the confirmation that the devs are aware, you're more accepting of that. Because right now there's the worry. You have all these exploits and we have no clue if the devs know about them. We have no clue if the devs are actually going to do anything about them because they just have not acknowledged it. But that's it for now. Thanks all for watching. I hope this was somewhat insightful, and we'll see you in the next one.